Hey guys, sorry, some technical difficulties there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry, I'm a minute or two late here. It's just been I got a back injury and life, everything takes a little bit longer these days. I am coming to you today to chat about funding our nonprofit. This month, we are talking about funding nonprofits. Right? We're talking about our 5 pillars of nonprofit funding and then so many other pieces and parts that go into that. So, today I wanted to share a few stories. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting a lot of text coming up above here and it's distracting. I wanted to share a few stories from the road. We're going to talk about overcoming the fear of funding and specifically in the area of individuals. So reaching out to individuals. So that's family and friends and so many other people. Hello, I don't know your name. You've got to allow StreamYard to know your name, but whoever's over there on Facebook, hello. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to really get us moving on funding of our nonprofits. The things that God is calling us to do, He's created us with a purpose, and He will fund whatever that purpose is. So number one, we want to get clear on our purpose. And we're going to talk about that. We talked about that a couple months ago, and we're going to be talking about it again next month. So if you're still in that phase, hey, Dana, welcome. If you're still in that phase of trying to figure out your purpose and really kind of nailing down, is this God or is this you? And just all of that goes into that. We will be addressing that next month. So stay tuned. But this stuff is really, really helpful because a lot of times we know our purpose, but we're actually too afraid to step into it because we don't know where the money will come. We don't know where the people will come. We don't know the legal logistics of these things or whatever it is, right? We let these worries and overwhelm come over us and stop us from taking action on the purpose that we do know He has. Shawnee and I talked this week, and this is something from my life that I learned a while back. It's like, I am rarely confused. In fact, I'm never confused because God is not the author of confusion. When I think I'm confused, it's because God told me to do something and I don't want to do it. It might be because I'm afraid. It might be because I think it won't work. It might be 1,000 different reasons why, or someone's going to be mad at me, or whatever it might be, right? But I'm not confused. I just don't want to do what God's called me to do. And so don't let that be you. But that's another topic for next month. So I want to talk about fear of funding. So let me look at my notes here for a second. That idea of reaching out for funding is scary. It is scary. But I can tell you, you're going to start to love it. As you start working the system, you're going to love it. I love doing funding calls now. I love doing my funding meetings. I hated it. I sat there crying. If you saw the blog post earlier this week that we put out there, I hated it. I was just so resistant, and specifically in the area of family and friends, because I can work harder, longer. I can deal with this. I don't need to reach out to anyone else for help. And I bet you that's some of you out there. I know it is because I know, and I've talked to you, but at the same time, it's true of everyone. And the problem with that is it's pride. I was just on a webinar right before this, and they were talking about a similar thing in a whole different topic, not nonprofit, but in an area of personal finance, and the idea of pride. We won't take steps forward that we know He's calling us to do because we're prideful. I'll reach out to other people, but I'm not reaching out to family and friends. Well, that's stupid. Because if you can't get your family and friends to reach out and support what you're doing, then you need to rethink what you're doing. And they love and support you. They may or may not give, and that doesn't matter. It's you getting over yourself and your mindset that is the key here. All right. I'm getting all over the place. I like to not go off of notes, and I'm trying hard to stick to my notes. All right. So 2015, my life was a mess. Absolute mess. I had kidney stones. I had a ton of stuff going on in the nonprofit world, which was not pretty. I was trying to figure out how to support myself. I had gotten back from Kenya in 2014, and Ebola was going around Africa. It was nowhere near Kenya, but that affected my business in a few ways. And so God was really bringing me to the point of, you need to let go of the daycare. There was a lot that went into it, more than just what I'm sharing there. I could go on and on with that, but it was getting to this crossroads, or it was to a crossroads of, are you going to go all in with me, meaning God, or are you going to, keep one foot over here in the income sector and then the other foot over here in trying to do everything, and of course not doing at anything well, but try and do everything, right? So on top of that, so that was happening. Then we add to that, I started getting kidney stones, and that was like a 2-month process, of which I had 3 speaking engagements that had been booked for 6 months during that time period. My son had his own issues that he was going through with drug and alcohol. I guess it was just drug abuse at that time. And so I was trying to deal with all of that. Life was messy. On top of all that, I got a speeding ticket as I was heading to Bible study, of all places. And just that idea of I'm running harder, longer, faster, but yet nothing was working out. God was calling me to reach out for family and friend support to be able to close the business, but I was refusing to do that because I can just work harder, longer, and faster. I don't need their help. Well, God was making it abundantly clear that he was going to deal with that one way or another. The pride in me, he was going to deal with. I have always been the breadwinner in my family as a lawyer. At that time, right before that, I started a business. I had my own law office for a while, and then I started this business and was doing this business. And the business was something God had called me to do. I know it was, and it was really hard to close that business. But at the same time, that's what he was calling me to do. In that process, I ended up on a couch in a hotel room. It was at a women's retreat, and I was talking with someone. I was crying. I actually wasn't talking with anyone. I was sitting on that couch, really in tears, like I can't do this, because he was calling me to send out the family and friends letter. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to reach out to people. I don't want to be on the phone. I don't want to do any of this. And I don't want to reach out to people I know. I just don't want to. And so I was sitting there, and this person noticed me over there. It was a friend of a friend. And she said, what's going on? And I said, and I explained, that what was going on. Like, my business is ending in a month. I have no income. I don't know what I'm going to do. And, I just don't know what to do. And she said, well, what was the last thing God told you to do? And I said, well, send out a letter to family and friends. And she's like, well, why won't you do it? And I said, because I don't need to. Like, I can do this. I can work. I can do both. And then she's the one that explained to me that it was pride that was keeping me stuck. And then I did send out the letter finally. I will tell you, it wasn't some immediate rainfall, like I have every dollar I ever needed. I wish I could report that story. But at the same time, it was all I needed. We had more than enough through that entire process. My husband still was working. I just like to have my own income. We had a blended family. And so I had 2 kids, he had 1. And it was not an easy process. But at the same time, he was just taking so many things off of me as far as trusting him in this process versus trusting me and my best laid plans, and removing that pride from me. Like, I don't need to work harder, longer. Right? Like, he calls me to be working from rest and do what he calls me to do and act in obedience, not what I think is the best plan. And so that's really where he led that. So I did send it out. There was money that came in, and there was a lot of encouraging things. There was a lot of tough phone calls I had to make that I didn't want to. The phone is just something I just don't like. I'm not a huge fan of the phone. I'd rather do Skype. I'd rather do in-person meetings, but there wasn't always time to do that. And some people were far away. And so it did take a while, but I did get over that hump, and I sent out that letter. Now, why is the family and friends letter so important? So it's more than just family and friends. It will go out to other individuals as well. But why is it so important? Number one is what I shared, right? It is the idea of getting over ourselves, getting over the pride. We need to be out there. We need to be reaching. We need to be out there. So that's number one, is getting over ourselves. So we're getting over that pride and doing what he's calling us to do. Number 2 is a well-known principle in business, and it's the same thing in nonprofits. And it's the idea that people will not donate, will not give, will not buy your product until they know, like, and trust you. You need all 3 of those things to be met before people will donate, before people will buy your product, before people, will be a part of what you're doing. Now, family and friends, of course, is the great place to start, because most of them know you. They obviously know you if you're a family or a friend. Number 2, hopefully most of them like you. That may not be true of all of them, but most of them probably like you. So you got 2 of the 3 stones done, right? Like, it's an easy fruit, right? It's low-hanging fruit. It's simple fruit because you've got those 2 done. Then it's just a matter of getting them to trust you in this area, right? And it takes a little time to build that. And that's okay. It's good because it's good to be able to build that. You're learning how to tell your stories. You're learning how to reach out. You're learning what stories resonate with people. So not only are you going there for funding, but it's also helping you build your website. It's also helping you with what stories to share as you then reach out to different donors, other individuals, businesses, all of those kind of things. What stories are most resonating? So this is a place where you're ferreting those things out. And it's a huge place where you can ask for feedback because you know them. And it's not as awkward as it's like, oh, I don't know this person, but I want like, hey, what was your favorite story that I shared? Right. Like it's a little bit easier when it's family and friends. So you're building that. No, first of all, with this area, we don't have to build the no and the like, hopefully the like, right? Well, for sure not the no. We've already got those two covered. And then we're able to get better at the trust factor. Number one, with their help and their feedback, and hopefully they'll donate, but they may or may not. And it's not about the donations. It's about doing what God's calling us to do. That's what it's about. We don't go into a donor meeting with the expectation of if this person doesn't give, then the whole world is going to end. Because it's not. It's not on that donor to support this mission. It's on God to support the mission. If you are living your life on purpose, this is God's mission. This is God's thing, and it's his bill. So let him use the family and friends letter as a way to build that. Right? Don't stand in his way. This is one way. I will tell you, everyone has to do this. There's not many things that I will say everyone has to do, but this is one of them. And the reason is the breaking off of the pride. The second reason is this know, like, and trust, and then figuring out what stories most resonate. Right? So this is just one of the things that everyone has to do it. And it's mostly because of the pride. And then the rest kind of flows from there. All right. Let me make sure I'm staying on my notes so I don't go overtime. So number one, peeling off pride. Number two, the know, like, and trust, right? So important. And it's going to just build every area of your nonprofit. And that person might not give in that meeting. I can tell you 100 stories of family and friends that didn't donate for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And they knew me and they knew I was out there and they saw me. I might not have been in their house, telling them about it, but they knew. And the reason I knew it was because they told me later. But then after like 6, 7 years, some of them are donating tens of thousands of dollars, up to even a lot more than that. But they didn't give anything at the beginning. So just because you're not getting money out of a meeting immediately does not mean you're building a relationship. And that's what this is all about. And it's about a relationship not only with you in Christ, right? And that trusting him in that journey, but it's also, you should go into that meeting. I tell my Kenyan friends, and this is how I go into all my meetings as well, that idea of, I don't go to a donor meeting, or even like I was in some land negotiation meetings in Kenya with a lawyer. And so we've been in his office a few times, and it's a long journey. You got to pay. It's all the way over Nairobi, all this. So we're investing all this in there. And it's like, oh, but we got to get a result. We got to get a result. I'm like, I don't go here for results. I go here to bring them closer to Christ. I want them to sit in that chair wherever they're at when I walk out of that door, closer to Christ than when I walked in that door. And if that means they give me money, awesome. And I love that. If that means they give me a good deal on land, even better, right? Like, all of those things are awesome. But I don't go there and my success or failure is based on the results. I go there because God called me to go there, and God will take care of the result. And it might be right there in that meeting. It might be a month later. It might be 10 years later. And it might be never, because God's just truly not calling them, or they're not following what he's calling them to do, whatever that is. I don't care. That's not my business. It's not my problem. I stay focused where God's calling me and say, okay, what's the next one? What's the next one? Hi, welcome. So that's what we need to do. We need to go into donor meetings, with our individual family and friends or whatever. I'm giving you a lot of stuff from the program right here. So I hope you're taking notes, because this is some good stuff. This is some really good stuff, not only for nonprofits, but for everything, for your business, if you're a business or whatever that looks like for you. All right. I got 3 points that I want to share in addition to what we've already shared. And it is getting out of our own way. All right. This is the key to individual, family, and friends, right? This is the key to that individual pillar. And it's true of our business as well. Get out of our own way. So number one, get into the word. Get into the word and start living it, whatever it is. You might be, we're a child of God, so let's live out of that. I go to a donor meeting. My success or failure isn't based off of what they say in that meeting, right? It is that I'm a child of God, and I'm going to go there and try and bring them closer to Christ. Maybe they don't even know Christ, or maybe they do, and it's just a matter of, hey, what is God talking to you about? And it's just small little things. We stay focused. The meeting needs to stay focused on why you're there, but there's little rabbit trails as you first begin a meeting, or and throughout that you share what God's doing in your life. You share what God's doing through the ministry. And if you're at the point where you don't have a ministry yet, which I was there for many, many years, that's okay. Then you share what God's doing in your life and why you feel God is leading you to this and why he led you to them. So you're staying right on point. You're not getting, oh, well, let's, not even talk about money. Let's just chat and see if they just randomly say something, right? We need to stay focused, but it's not our only focus, right? And so we want to make sure that we're bringing both of those things. So be in the word and start living that out. Believe what it says. You're a child of God. It doesn't matter what happens at this donor meeting. You are a child of God. Go there with that attitude. Stand in that strength and that power. Don't stand there saying, oh, if you don't donate, I just can't go on. I need this money tomorrow. You might need the money tomorrow. And God will bring it another way, or you don't really need that, whatever that is that you think you need. And then do what it says. That's the hard part, isn't it? James talks about that. I think a lot of Christians, or maybe some Christians, I don't know what the number is, I don't really care. But that idea of getting in the word, being in the word, reading the word, right? That's good. If you can get to that step, that's awesome. That's not a bad thing. That's really good. Keep that up. But if we are just reading the word and we are not actually doing what it says, what's the point? We need to live what the word says. It might be forgiveness. It might be love one another. It might be whatever it is, wherever you're at in the word, do it. Don't just walk away saying, check, I read my daily devotionals. Way to go. I'm going to read the Bible in a year, but I'm not actually going to apply any of it to my life. There's no point in that. There's no point in that whatsoever. I shared earlier this week on one of our pages some Bible journaling that we do with just some pens, really simple. We're not talking elaborate, but simple stuff. If that's journaling and just writing out the word and what he's calling you to do and what the word says. I remember one of my first things. So if you're new to the word, and you feel like, oh, I just don't have, I just don't understand what the word is talking about, that kind of thing. What I did when I first went through the word is I literally was writing it out. I tried to paraphrase it, so I would have to think it through a little bit more than actually literally word for word. But writing it out really helped start solidify what that means. And some of it you're not meant to understand yet if you're early in the journey, and that's okay. Just take what it rises to the top. If it rises to the top, take it, own it, and live it, right? And if let the rest go. The Spirit is going to lead. Yes, amen. The Spirit is going to lead in that. So let him lead you. That's what we're going to teach you in the program. That's what we teach all over the place. That is the key to all of this. Let him lead you. Let him lead you to the right meetings, the right individuals, the right family, the right friends. Let him lead you to the right fundraisers as we grow from there. Let him lead you in your family, in your relationships with your kids, in your relationships with your husbands, wives, whatever. Let him lead you. Stop trying to lead. Step back and let him lead. And the Western culture, that is so abnormal. That is so against everything we know, everything I knew, and probably everything you know. And I just had a conversation with my husband about that right before I came on. That idea of step back and let God take over the lead. Stop trying to lead. Let him lead. All right, back to my points. I'm going to go too long. I wanted to really, so we talked about soft areas. So number one, do what it says in the soft areas. My soft areas, really, really important. Wisdom, forgiveness, love, so many areas that we couldn't even list them all. But also in the hard areas, like finances. He's very clear how to handle our finances. It is very clear in the word. Give 10%, maybe more. This is a general gist. He might ask you to give more or do different things. But in the general, here's a bare minimum. And let's start living it. Number one, give 10%, invest 10%, save 10%, live on the rest. He might be calling you to give a little bit more than that. But that's a good rule of thumb, is those three things. Give, invest, save. Invest comes from the parable of the talents. I don't have time to go into all that, but it is very, very true. Look in there. Look, as far as giving, tithing is very clear in the Old Testament, and it carries through. So that's what we need to start doing. Now we not only do that in our personal finances, which is absolutely where we start. And if you have a husband that's not on board, no excuse. What money comes through your hands, whatever money comes through your hands, you deal with that. If your wife is not on board, whatever money comes through your hands, you take action in those areas. You don't force your husband or force your wife. You can bring it up and say like, hey, I would really like to consider this. You can chat about it, and you absolutely should. But it's not a matter of forcing. It's a matter of praying and asking God to change their mind, and, being bold enough to step up and say, hey, I really want to consider doing this, and this is why. And then let God work on the details of that from there. And it's true in your nonprofit finances as well. Those are 3 areas that you should be considering, the give, the invest, live on the rest, and save and live on the rest. Yes, Dana. Yeah, I just answered that question. It just popped up. But yes, that is what we do in our ministry finances as well. I will tell you that process in and of itself was not easy to get to, but it was a massive breakthrough. Money is not the answer to your problem. I thought, like, if I just had more money, I could build this mission. It wasn't more money I needed. Here's the big secret. It was more trust in him. And really, I needed more people, more than I needed the money, though in my mind, it was about the money. Is the giving to something other than the needs we serve? Yes. Dana, you need to pray about that. But I will say for me, yes, if I'm giving to my own ministry, I feel like that's cheating. For me, that might not be what he's calling you to. So you need to do what he's calling you to. So pray that through. But I will tell you, my story is that, I do not give to what we do in Kenya. I give somewhere else. It might be another mission in Kenya. It might be something here locally. It just depends. I pray and ask him, hey, where do you want me to give? Where do you want me to sow? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Now, if you I have an example. I had a client at one point where it was him and his wife, and they had left all employment. They had nothing. And so when they did give to their own ministry to help build their own ministry. And that's what God was calling them to do. That's fine. They had a different circumstance than I did. I had my husband working, so we did have income outside of what I was doing. And so, there was that ability. So it is a personal thing that you need to take to the Holy Spirit and ask. But I can tell you, for me and in my personal circumstance, that's the way God led in that. But you've got to take that to the Holy Spirit to pray that through. All right. Malachi talks about bringing the tithe into the warehouse. I'm sorry, the storehouse. Malachi, I think it's 3. I'm sorry, 3. It's Malachi 3. I know that for sure. I think it's around verse 16. It's a very popular verse. Saving is just good stewardship, right? To sit there and say I'm going to give everything, which is how I like to live. Let's just give it all. God will bring it back because I gave it. Not if he didn't call you to give. I like to give. And so I overgive. And my husband calls me on that. And it is true. When I look at the numbers, I do overgive. I want to give it all away because I do trust God will bring it, and he will. But if he's not calling me to give that, he's not going to bring that back. So we've got to be clear. Investing is important. And again, that's the parable of the talents. I'm still learning about that. It's something that me and my husband are very I don't like to risk the hard-earned money. I don't like to risk those kind of things, but that's a whole other story. We are not investing yet in our ministry as far as the investing part of that. I would recommend the National Christian Data. Yeah, I hear you. I am your husband. I'm the giver. My husband is more of that, hey, wait a minute. Yes, we need to give, and he agrees on the giving, but at the same time, and he wasn't always there. I lived many years where it was I only was able to give out of what I came into my pocket, and it took many years for him to get to the point of being willing to give up to the 10% and that kind of thing. So, all right. I'm not going to make this a money lesson. There's so many awesome things out there on money that I'm going to let it go there, but make sure you're following him in the concrete areas as well. Finances being one of them. Journal. As we read the word, we get part of that. Then take that to your journal and say, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this today? How can this best apply to my life? Whatever portion of the Bible I was reading today. And that kind of goes to the effect of, I love reading outside books, but if I'm not going to spend time, or, my Bible reading app plans or this, that, and the other, right? But if I'm not going to spend time directly in the word, I'm not going to get the same results. I have got to have my Bible open, and your Bible might be on your phone. That's fine. For me, I need a paper Bible. It's just, I get so distracted on my phone. I've got to have a paper Bible so I can put my phone over to the side and not be focused on it. But taking that time in the word, and then taking the time to say, okay, God, how do you want me to apply this to my life? And he'll even apply stuff in Leviticus, right? So these areas where, you might be trying to read the Bible through in a year, or you might be in some random spot and it's kind of this doesn't apply to me at all, right? Then keep reading. And number 2 is, you'd be surprised if you slow down. One of the ways that I slow down as well, besides journaling, is coloring. And finding these coloring verses, like these like books that have like Bible verses, and like just see what God reveals. And there's Bibles out there that actually you can color in as well. But that can really help. So those are just ways to really distract you, to keep you busy, like with a little bit of busy work, but let God work on the rest. All right. I am running out of time quickly. Then we need to write the letter. Yeah. So let's get our lives in line, right? Let's get in the word. Let's get to journaling. Let's get this. Let's ask him, who should we send it out to? Let's ask them, what do we include in the letter? Within our program, we have a sample template that is a really, really great template that really can help you, figure out what those stories that you need to tell and how to tell them and what order, and make sure you have all the pieces and parts. But the reality is the Holy Spirit is the one that wants to lead and guide you in that. So the template is really nice because it makes it fast and easier. But at the same time, like, just take it to the Holy Spirit. Ask him, what should I write? Where should I write it? How should I do that? Who should I send it out to? Okay. Step 2. Step 2, write it. Figure out who to send it to. And then step 3, do it. Don't sit on it. Don't wait on it. In Kenya, I have a friend, now she's my friend, that shared the idea of, like, when you know what God's calling you to do, the longer you sit and wait on that, the harder that action is. Just do it. Don't sit there and, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be this. No, it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be out in someone else's hands. That's what it needs to be doing, right? Sitting in there and redoing and re-editing and hem and hawing, which is what I was doing that day in that hotel room, was not getting me anywhere, except backwards. It was getting me more into my own lies, my own head, my own, all of these different pieces and parts, right? And it was only taking me backwards. So take action, you guys. Take action. If that action is writing a letter, if that action is, getting in our program so you have, that support and that moral support alongside you, whatever that action is, something in your business, I don't know, whatever that action is, start doing it, you guys. Start doing it. Stop making excuses that no one else is doing it. No, I'm afraid or I'm overwhelmed. Right? Like, let's start taking that action. All right. And this week is an individual family and friends letter. So let's get the thing written. Let's get 3 to 5 names of people that we're going to send it to. That's it. You can brainstorm a list of 100 and that's fine, but we're not going to send it out to 100 people. Probably ever, maybe. But not today, not this week. We're going to grab 3 or 5 names and get those sent out and then follow up on it. Right? Because that's the other thing. Like, we need to really make sure that we're following up and not just throwing out letters and then just like, if you don't follow up, someone's not going to call you on a letter like that. Generally, they might send you something in the back in the mail, and that's great. But a conversation will get you more. Right? We want to build relationships. So, and we want these relationships to bring people to Christ, be it for the first time or deeper into relationship with Christ. And then we want that, of course, we hope that flows into money. But again, in the end, this is about God and building his kingdom. And some of those meetings will bring money. Some of them will bring you closer to Christ, and some of them will bring those people closer to Christ. And many of them will bring money. But at the same time, it's not about the money. Like, that is a byproduct. God will take care of the details. He will take care of your finances. Let's get clear on his vision and mission for us. And let's start walking that out. All right. Family and friends. Let's start there. All right. That's a wrap for today, guys. Next week, we'll be coming again, and we'll be talking about our 3rd pillar of our nonprofit fundraising. So what we have, let me give you a general idea, is what we have for our 5 pillars is I just saw something pop on the screen and it distracted me. I'm sorry. Shawnee, thank you for putting the link there. So if you're interested in hopping in the course and really getting one-on-one connection with going through this process, hop over there and you'll see all that you get there, and we can hop on a call and talk about that as well. But it also is that idea of, so what is our 5 pillars? It's a fundraising strategy. We should have you're so welcome. We should have various ways that we bring money into our organization. It should not be one individual donor. It should not be one this. It should not be one that. We need to have multiple streams of income into our nonprofit. And some of that might even be business. So we're not going to cover every possible area, but we have 5 areas that new nonprofits should start on. The number 1 pillar was last week, and that was prayer and relationship. Number 2 was individual, family, and friends letter. I'm not going to give away what number 3 is. Some of you may know, but 3 and 4 are coming up in the next couple of weeks. Join us every week right here at noon. Central time, noon, so 1 p.m. Eastern time, noon Central time, to really start working this and get this thing going in your nonprofit or whatever it is that you're raising. All right, guys. So long for now. We will talk to you next week.